single metric, America does worse across the board.
Yep. Well, yeah, it's about healthcare. If your baby is sick or something, and you have to pay, I don't know, I really don't know, 2,000-3,000 to get your baby vaccinated and look after it and get some drugs, and I don't know. Yeah, and you don't do this because you have to pay that much money. It's not strange that babies do die. Hello, and welcome to my channel. My name is Johan, and I am a typical Dutchman that's reacting to all things that are related to America. So culture, costs, any contrast. I want to know how it is. So I'm gonna take a look at this video today, and it tells me, as a video from David Cross, with why America sucks at everything. What? I don't know. But okay, let's start with a subscribe and a like. I don't even know if I like the video, but let's take a look at it and join me in the learning process. America is bad at everything. 6:30. America America continues to be bad at everything. And at 7, you have seen a red pigeon. Pageant.
America is the greatest country on earth, the strongest, the richest, the most powerful country on earth. As an American, I'm sure you've heard that roughly 135 times a year.
Yeah, as non-American, I also hear this a lot, that America is the greatest thing on earth.
235 if you go to public school. 335 if you go to a Christian academy. We're told that Americans have the best lives of any people in the world. That we have low taxes, small government, and the highest living standards on earth.
Okay. You're told that because I know already that that is not true. Looking from my Dutch eyes into America, it's not true.
And most inaccurately, that we're the freest. Well, it is partly true. America is the richest country, not just in the world, but in the history of the world. It's really hard to comprehend just how rich we are. We have 18 million people who are millionaires. American households
18 million millionaires.
own about $100 trillion in wealth, an almost unthinkable amount of money. Okay, so America is the richest country ever. But there's a curious paradox. Most Americans actually have a much worse standard of living than people who live in poorer countries like Germany or Finland or Britain. But how can that be?
Yeah, okay, the quality of life. Yeah, okay, let's talk about the quality of life.
That shouldn't make any sense. Well, here's the shitty deal. Americans get significantly worse services because our tax dollars don't fund them. So of course our services are worse, and thus we enjoy less happy lives than people who live in the aforementioned countries. Not that difficult a concept to conceive, really. You get what you pay for, said the cartoon dog to the other cartoon dog. And while you might think the reason American tax dollars don't fund as many services is because we pay lower taxes than other countries, that's not even true.
No? Okay.
When you add federal, state, local, and sales tax,
What? Federal, state, local, sales? Oh, okay.
and include other costs and services that our taxes don't cover but other countries' taxes do, like our uniquely high health insurance premiums, you'll find
We pay, and now I have to be cautious what I'm saying. We paying two kinds of taxes. That's one, federal government by law, several taxes, but they are all federal, and local, one kind of tax for garbage collection or water cleaning, that kind of. So, yeah, two taxes we pay, not federal, state, and local. Sales tax, yeah, okay, we have sales tax too.
Find that Americans actually give away more of their wages than most of the developed world. For example, in Canada, for a married worker with 2 kids, all of the previously mentioned costs combined, from taxes to health insurance premiums, make up only 11% of the average wage. In the UK, it's just about 26%. Meanwhile, once you tack on the cost of our outlandish health insurance premiums, you're spending a whopping 43% of your paycheck. That's more than France, Finland, Sweden, and Norway. In real reality, Americans keep much less of what we own.
Back up. You pay 43% of your wages, including...
Once you tack on the cost of our outlandish health insurance premiums...
Health insurance premiums. Yeah, I still don't know how much an average health insurance premium is in the United States.
You're spending a whopping 43% of your paycheck. That's more than France, Finland, Sweden, and Norway. In real reality, Americans keep much less of what we own than in other countries. In other countries, their government takes a bit more tax, but then gives that money back to their citizens in the form of healthcare or job support, or a general safety net for all vulnerable citizens, no matter how dusky they are. So what do Americans get for the money we pay in? Well, sure, we get a crumbling infrastructure, shameful homelessness, and millions of hungry, neglected children, but we also get some of the worst services in the developed world. Again, our healthcare. American healthcare is simultaneously the most expensive, the least efficient, and the least effective healthcare system in the developed world.
Most expensive, least efficient, and least effective in the entire world.
Hey, the devil's trifecta. And in exchange for this extreme...
This guy is not positive. I don't know. Is this real? Leave something in the comments if this is how you actually feel living in the United States. And while you're down there, like and subscribe too if you want to see more of this kind of videos.
Extremely expensive, inefficient healthcare system, what do we get? Well, we get some of the worst health outcomes in the developed world. We have fewer hospital beds per capita than people in Turkey or Brunei. Americans have a lower life expectancy than people in Lebanon or Cuba. And in the
lower life expectancy.
Mississippi Delta and much of Appalachia, life expectancy is lower than in Bangladesh. In fact, in 2017, the United Nations sent a commissioner to West Virginia to document what he saw, and he described, quote, third world conditions of absolute poverty, unquote. We even have a higher infant mortality rate than people in Russia and Serbia. In every single metric, America does worse across the board.
Yep, well, yeah, it's about healthcare. If your baby is sick or something, and you have to pay, I don't know, I really don't know, $2,000-3,000 to get your baby vaccinated and look after it and get some drugs, and I don't know. Yeah, and you don't do this because you have to pay that much money. It's not strange that babies do die.
So why is healthcare so expensive?
Yeah, this is a good question. Why? That's why I wonder.
Because it's so complicated. You have to look for in-network physicians, schedule an established care appointment, beg for coverage from your insurance company that couldn't care less about you, and that's if you're lucky enough to have good insurance. Compare that to Britain and all of those other evil, socialist-like countries where it's simple. Public hospitals provide free treatment to people who need it. That's it. I'll repeat that. Public hospitals provide free treatment to people who need it. And here's the best part.
Yeah, it's he's using Great Britain, but yeah, it's all over Europe. The Netherlands, if it's it's free. If you really need, it's free.
Even though Britain offers healthcare for free, their system is actually a lot cheaper to run than ours. Per capita healthcare spending in the US is almost 3 times what it is in Britain, and almost 5 times what Canadians spend. In fact, Americans spend the most per person of any country in the world for healthcare. But the free market is more efficient, you screech. But in America, private systems often aren't efficient at all. Private drug companies have an incentive to charge whatever they can get away with for pharmaceuticals.
They have what again?
You screech. But in America, private systems often aren't efficient at all. Private drug companies have an incentive to charge whatever they can get away with for pharmaceuticals.
They have an incentive to charge whatever they want, as long as someone accepts it. That's the starting point. If the pharmaceuticals can charge any price they want, if it's realistic or not, if the production cost is, for example, $5 with all the materials you need, and you can ask $50 of it, and those $50 goes into a hospital, and the hospital has to pay that $50 plus some extra, so then it charges to the health insurance company 70 or 75. Yeah, then you have a product that starts with $5 and material costs. Let's say with transportation and all that stuff, packaging, it becomes 10. But yeah.
In Canada, a carton of insulin costs about $20. In the US,
Insulin, $20.
it costs $300.
What?
And with private insurance companies footing the bill,
I'm gonna look it up. I need to look this up. There we have it. The price of insulin can vary, because it's Dutch, I'm translating live, can vary depending on the type and the manufacturer. But in average, the treatment of 1 year with long working insulin is about 100 to 140 euros a year for 10 units a day. NPH insulin is cheaper, but with a price of almost 72 euros a year for 10 units a day. Wow.
hospitals have an incentive to get as much money out of patients as possible, too. In 2015, the average cost of an MRI scan in the U.S. was $1,119.
$1,119 for an MRI. Let's take a look. By direct clinic prices, I see that if you want to have, it's about, and I'm looking at the most expensive, this is an MRI of breast and breast implants. It's 550 euros for a scan. That has to be paid by the hospital. That has to be paid by the insurance to the hospital. And if you need to have a contrast, then it's 50 euros more. $1,000.
But it was only $215 in Australia. Spain, about $181. And our
Even Spain is cheaper as us.
Healthcare system is so inefficient that we spend over a third of our cost on administration. The United States spends significantly more on administration than we spend on preventative or long-term healthcare. That's just not smart. Okay, we get it. We all know that American healthcare is so much more expensive, you say, but that's the cost of having the freest freedom in God's favorite country. Well, guess what? Medical procedures that are totally free in Britain, like giving birth, cost tens of thousands of dollars in the United States.
Yeah, I already know this from the previous video. Yeah. Oh.
I mean, you want to talk about the cost of freedom. Sadly, because of these high costs, Americans often avoid going to the doctor, something almost half the population say they do. With shoddy or non-existent health insurance, Americans will...
Yeah, that's what I said earlier in the video, that because of the cost, parents with their children will not go. Yeah, because they cannot afford it to go to a doctor.
Half the population say they do. With shoddy or
50%
non-existent health insurance, Americans will wait until their conditions force them into the emergency room where treatment is far more expensive.
Yeah, prevention is better than cure, of course.
Again, not a smart system. Quite often, they end up putting off medical visits and dying. Susan Finley, a 53-year-old Walmart
Yeah, that's what I said. Okay.
employee in Colorado, got pneumonia and took 1 day off of work
Ammonia. Okay, 1 day off.
beyond what Walmart's policy allows. So of course, Walmart's gonna Walmart, which they did by firing her.
Firing! Because she's sick? No way. And we'll keep it for the Netherlands, because I'm not sure for the entire Europe, because it's the European Union, so it's a law for every nation in the European Union. But to be on the safe side, in the Netherlands, you can be 2 years ill before your employer has the right to fire you. 2 years. With that restraint that in those 2 years you have to visit the doctor and the company's doctor to verify that you're still ill and that you are doing everything in your power to become better again. But during this 2 year period, you get paid not the full amount, about 70% of your usual pay, of your salary, of 70% of usual salary you get paid. And then, yeah.
Without her job, she lost her nominal health care coverage, she struggled to find new work, and after avoiding a visit to the doctor for flu-like symptoms, she was found dead in her apartment. When Americans do manage to get treated, they frequently can't afford it. Simple, life-saving treatments can cost tens or hundreds of thousands of dollars, and if they don't have really good insurance...
Yeah, I saw it in the previous video. For a heart attack, what 109,000? No. Life-saving treatments, no cost. Serious ill treatments, no cost. If you go for, let's say, if you go for a facelift, I was looking for the right word, or other cosmetic enhancements of your body that's not related to a fire burn or something else, then you have to pay extra. But for life-saving treatments, and nothing, not a dime.
They're forced to take on medical debt. Tens of millions of Americans owe medical debt, often into the tens of thousands of dollars. Meanwhile, in a country like Britain or Norway, medical debt is almost unheard of. But hey.
Yeah, we don't. We don't have. I cannot even remember that someone has a medical debt. They have debt for a car, or they have a debt for a house, or I don't know. But for medical, never.
That's why GoFundMe is such a critical component of American healthcare. 1 in 3 GoFundMe campaigns is now for medical bills. I'll repeat that. 1 in 3 GoFundMe campaigns is now for medical bills. America is such a strong, powerful, rich, and great country that its citizens have to beg strangers on the internet for money so they can get life-saving treatments that are free in the rest of the developed world. But hey, that's just healthcare. Americans get terrible deals wherever you look. Let's take work, for example.
Work? Okay.
Americans work longer hours than people in any other rich country in the world, and that's not because they enjoy sleep deprivation and not seeing their families for days at a time. It's because they don't want to starve, or freeze, or die. See, America has the least generous job support programs, the least generous family benefits, and the least generous unemployment benefits of any wealthy country. It's one of the only countries on Earth that doesn't guarantee paid time off for vacations. It doesn't even help provide paid time off for parents who just had a child. And it's not coincidental that we're also one of the most hostile countries to workers' rights. America has one of the lowest unionization rates in the entire world. Maybe this deprivation, our refusal to give people the means to lead a good, dignified life commensurate with how rich our country is, can explain a bit of what we've seen in the United States over the last few decades. Fraying communities, rising rates of depression and suicide, huge numbers of deaths from drug overdoses. These so-called deaths of despair, suicide, drug overdoses, alcoholic liver disease, they're one big reason why American life expectancy has actually started to decline over.
Is this also a part of the criminal? That there are more criminals in the United States because there is such a low job and no, not a low job, but a high requirements and a low payment of jobs that you can't even afford a house or feed yourself, that you be a criminal and you go to jail for whatever, 3 years, 5 years, 10 years. Then you have a house, quote, quote, a bed to sleep on, and you get fed. You don't have your freedom, but you wouldn't have your freedom anyway if you can't. Yeah. Is that the reason why a lot of criminals are in the jail?
For the last few years.
Let me know in the comments.
And with such poor conditions, it's not a surprise that poverty is so rampant in the United States. America devotes a smaller percentage of spending on social welfare than any other industrialized economy because, say it with me, socialism is evil.
Socialism is evil. Where's that coming from?
It's evil. Go to Denmark and try telling those happy, healthy families enjoying their paid vacation that their system of government is evil. Guess what? I guarantee they'll know you're an American. But I digress. America also has the highest rate of child poverty of any developed country, and the highest percentage of workers earning significantly less than the national median income. That seems pretty evil to me, especially since such a tiny fraction take as much of your money for themselves and their families as you will let them.
Made for the 1%. Yeah, that's what Trump and his administration nowadays is doing, making less taxes. The 1% has to pay less taxes so that the other 99% has to pay more. Yeah.
All the while, both parties smile and shake hands. Across every single metric, no people accept a worse deal than Americans today. High taxes, high cost of living for next to nothing in return from the government. The most expensive healthcare system for the worst health outcomes. More money taken from workers for the highest rate of child poverty. We are the richest country in the history of the world, but we have fewer miles of high-speed rail than Uzbekistan. We are the greatest country in the world, yet we have the most people in prison of any country, and the highest incarceration rate as well.
Yeah, that's what I just asked. is this because of the low quality of life and people getting depressed and think, yeah, if I go to jail, at least I have a bed and I'm warm, I have a bed and I have food?
And a higher rate of police killings than in Angola and Sudan. America is bad at everything because instead of choosing to make life better for people through a public healthcare system or more generous childcare policies or better public transit or programs that allow people to spend more time with their families, American law is designed and crafted to protect a class of parasitical middleman industries. Instead of using a proportionally tiny piece of the massive amount of the wealth in this country to make people's lives healthier and happier, most of our elected leaders are, and have been for generations, engaged in a massive project of looting, gently and lovingly guiding as much money as possible from working people into the pockets of the well-connected and the ultra-rich.
Yeah, it's the lobbying of all those, yeah.
Think about that as we start hearing about the inevitable rise in homelessness, poverty, starvation, and sickness that will occur during these coming months and years in the greatest, strongest, richest, most powerful country on the face of the earth.
You would get depressed if you hear this video. Yeah, damn. Oh,
I'm David Cross for the Gravel Institute.
Thank you, David Cross, for this insight in the United States. Okay. Damn. Well, like and subscribe, and we'll take a look together at what if we could make this a better world for the Americans. See you in the next video.